Okay, I call to order the committee of the whole. No, I call to order the special board meeting.
Ooh, my bad.
At 6:31 p.m. Central Standard Time on Thursday, the 11th of July in the year 2024. In the boardroom of Oak Park and River Forest High School applicant.
Mr. Brisbane,
Here.
Dr. Maharaj. Here. Mr. Arkin,
Here.
Ms. Williams-Lee.
Here.
Dr. Livingston,
Here.
Mr. Brandhorst, and Mr. Kosky.
Here.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. I move to enter closed session for the purpose of discussing the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the district, the legal counsel for the district, and the contractors and specific volunteers, including hearing testimony on a complaint lodged against an employee or against legal counsel for the district to determine its validity. However, immediately consider an increase in compensation for a specific employee of a public body that is subject to the local government Wage Increase Transparency Act may not be closed and shall be open to the public and posted and held in accordance with this act. Collective negotiating matters between the district and its employees or their representatives or deliberations concerning salary schedules for one or more classes of employees. In litigation, when an action against, affecting, or on behalf of the particular public body has been filed and is pending before a court or administrative tribunal, or when the public body finds that an action is probable or imminent, in which case the basis for the finding shall be recorded and entered into the minutes of the closed meeting.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Dr. Maharaj. Yes. Mr. Arkin,
Yes.
Ms. Williams-Lee.
Yes.
Mr. Brisbane,
Yes.
Mr. Brandhorst.
Yes.
Dr. Livingston,
Yes.
and Mr. Kosky.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so we are reconvening open session at 7:40 p.m. and our first order of business is public comment. Lisa?
I just have one public comment to be written into the minutes.
Okay. Thank you. Our next order of business are action items, of which I'm sorry, it's okay. For that, we have a Dr. Johnson would like to make a statement.
Yeah, so before we get into the board business, the action items tonight, I want to address the recent Pioneer Press article that appeared just yesterday in Tribune regarding a complaint against the district filed with the state board and attorney general's office. The article states that the district did not respond to a request for comment, and I just want to put out there that this is absolutely false. Within hours of the reporter's request, the district responded with a statement, and that same day, our board president, Mr. Kowski, responded with a comment to the report. I want to read here the statement that we provided. The district is carefully reviewing the complaint filed with the Illinois State Board of Education and the Attorney General's office and will respond accordingly. Our ability to otherwise comment at this time is limited. We do, however, recognize that the crisis in the Middle East has challenged the policies and practices of academic institutions across the country, including ours. Nonetheless, we remain steadfast in our efforts to respect the rights of all members of our community. And in this effort, we have sought the advice of countless religious and community leaders, and on multiple occasions, we have sought the advice of legal counsel. Since October 7, 2023, our administration has met with dozens of students, faculty, staff, parents, community members, with varying and often conflicting views on the events in the Middle East. Across the board, regardless of their identities, they have shared personal stories of pain, anger, fear, despair. And we want them to know that we see them, we hear them, and we are committed to ensuring we have a safe and healthy environment, one which is protected through our board policies. Now, as part of that effort, we will continue to investigate and respond to any and all allegations of such conduct directed at members of our community. So that concludes the statement, and as the statement references, we have been consulting with our attorneys for months to ensure that we are following our district policies. They have suggested on occasion some enhancements to our support for school community members affected by these events, and we will share those actions with the school community once we finalize the details before the coming school year. So that concludes what I want to share at the moment.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson. Okay. On our agenda for action items, we have 3, of which we will address 2 now, but the third will be delayed until we go back into closed session. So we will do item 7A on the agenda, which is the purchase of the driver's ed truck. So I move for the approval that Gerald Kia of North Aurora is awarded the RFP for 5 driver's education vehicles for a total cost of $98,665. Second. And is there any discussion or question? Seeing none, I ask for a roll call, please.
Mr. Greenhouse?
Yes.
Ms. Wainsley? Yes. Dr. Winston?
Yes.
Dr. Mullenweg?
Yes.
Mr. Brisbane?
Yes.
Mr. Arkin?
Yes.
And Mr. Kowski?
Yes. Thank you. The motion passes, and we move to our second motion. I move to approve the extension of the current fuel IGA as requested by the Village of Oak Park.
Second.
And is there any discussion on this?
Great savings, we should continue to look for opportunities like this.
And I would also comment, and it's been a comment I've made repeatedly, is I would really like to see the district expand the scope beyond just this fuel into other utilities where we are consuming energy and share. So with that said, I ask for a roll call, please.
Ms. Williams Lee,
Yes.
Dr. Livingston,
Yes.
Mr. Brisbane,
Yes.
Mr. Arkin,
Yes.
Dr. Maharaj,
Yes.
Mr. Reynolds.
Yes.
And Mr. Costi.
Yes, the motion passes, and that concludes, we will defer item 7C. And we will shift to our policy section, and our wonderful topic of, board governance. So, on this one, I have I have two items to bring forth. One new, one old. The old one is, merely, a framing up on the, our board goals and really our board self-evaluation. So I applaud and thank all for your input. And the board self-evaluation was completed, and hopefully all could see on it the summary of all the inputs. And so the question is, what's next? And what do we need to what do we want to do next? And this relates to discussions we've had on a pending board retreat. So when we last met, we said, what do we want the focus of our board retreat to be? And there were a couple ideas referenced. Well, there were three things that were kind of thrown on the table. One is governance, and we said we've done a lot of our own on governance. The second was on really board self-evaluation, and we've done our board self-evaluation. I will come back to that momentarily. And the third are board goals. And it was my input when we last spoke to have it be board goals pending what we saw in self-evaluation. So it's, this is now for discussion. My preliminary cursory view of the board self-evaluation is I did not see anything in that says we need to have a focused session on self-evaluation. The data says that there is reasonable to strong consensus among board members on where we are. I think there's some tidbits that we can get into to better understand, so we can use that as part of the tool of the process. But I think more importantly, we can use it to say, okay, here are areas we see where we think we have opportunity to grow, or where we're developing and we can advance. How do we want to factor that into our goal setting? So that is what my recommendation would be, is to continue that path. I'm opening up to any comments on that, and then I can talk about what the next steps would be if there's support for that.
So I just have a note for everyone. I had COVID last week, so I missed the deadline. I've now filled it out. I don't know whether you can send a copy to people at this point. So, and if I missed it, it's fine.
I thought, and I was confused because it showed that you had most of it, either you opened it and.
I did, I probably opened it and looked at it,
Yeah,
like,
so
initially, but I had to fill.
It tricked me,
Yeah, that's.
so, okay,
I was my first time having COVID, it kind of knocked me out for a bit, so,
okay. So I guess the question is, any, are there any takeaways? I mean, obviously, when we have our retreat, we can get into more detail on it. But I'm opening up right now if there's anything that you see based on this point that might want to reshape how we proceed.
I had one takeaway that I guess for future board self-evaluations, I would like there to be some of the questions designed for the individual board member to be more perspective on their own role and their own performance. It was largely collectively, how are we doing? And I was hoping to have some questions that were tailored for more the individual me and my own introspective reflectiveness on my performance and things that I would like to improve on and so that I think that was really missing from this self-evaluation. I'd like to see that.
Did it? I mean, I wrote some of those in anyway, but yeah, there was not a really this one.
But I think that's that, you know, so that's
Yeah.
first of all, the tool itself, as I kind of come. I mean, it, not only is it not about us individually, but it's not even about us as Illinois school board members. So it's somewhat generic, but it gets the job done. What I think, just taking your suggestion, is for our retreat, that's something that we can bring forth. And as board members, you know, we can assign additional things to say that we can bring to the retreat to be prepared, so there's no reason why we have to say it didn't ask. So I think that's a great modification to what we can do. So thank you.
And I think along those points, you kind of answered it, because one of my thought was, are there opportunities to customize this, right? Can you make it more specific to, you know, Illinois, what kinds of things to do, you know, for some of the more broader questions, as well as I agree, Jonathan, would be your comment, because I'm laughing, I was reading some of that, like, what is this? I had to look it up, realize it's New York, not us. But in general, even some of the questions here, figure out those important things for us, so it'll be good to have some conversation.
Okay, other input.
We might consider, so there's 4 areas that we had our lowest rated competencies in. We might consider taking those 5 areas as something just to discuss in the goal set. Be a simple way to pull from the evaluation. Here are the things that are kind of elevating good warrant conversation.
Yeah, I mean, I would think that in prep for that, we could share not only that, but the 5, you can look at it and you can pick the 5 that were the highest and the 5 that were the lowest and put them both right on the table and use that in the goal setting process. Because even the highest ones, you know, we may want to say, wow, we're really feel we're good here. How do we leverage the heck out of that, right? So both sides of the spectrum. So okay. Others' thoughts? Okay, so here's what then the action is I've got a meeting tentatively scheduled with the our rep, okay, to plan this retreat that's scheduled for August the 8th. I keep wanting to say something. And so I am going to do the following. I'm gonna share that we've done our self-evaluation, and you know, here's even what it is that we're interested in looking at, you know, that self-evaluation from a standpoint of how do we, as well as our last year's board goals, of how do we then use those to set our forward goals. That's really the essence of it. And then I think we can add in the comment, which is we can also have in that a kind of an individual reflective point, which I think would be a good add. How do I feel about me as a board member, or just to have some dialogue? I think that would be a that's what my intent will be. Wish me luck. Because I want to make sure that we have this customized for us and not canned program, and I'm gonna make sure, you know, I'm gonna fight that, so that's okay. That was the first item. Thank you for your input, your contributions. Mary Ann, I mean, if there are things, because I did not, I thought it was all in there. And
It's not your fault.
Okay.
I did put a lot of comments in there. I could just,
Yeah.
like, I could copy them into a Word doc and send it to you all as well, if that's easier. I don't know what what's.
Yeah, I guess it's just more, I think we're looking collectively of, are there any main outliers and where are our 5 tops and 5 bottoms?
Well, and maybe if you could sit with me after the meeting, because I also I'm somehow missing where the compilation is. I see the email from you saying there's a compilation. Is that in the system? But so when I go to the system, maybe because I went in late, I don't see the compilation. I see that I've completed it and like none of you have, and so like.
Are you in the right year? I think you're in 2025. Sorry.
What it is,
Okay.
okay.
It defaults to the first year.
Yeah, it jumps you right into 2025.
Okay.
I've been stumped by that.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, well,
That's why we all knew real quick.
I will just send you all then.
Okay.
Okay.
Can I,
Yes, sir.
looking back, if this is helpful and
Yeah,
if you think it's a good idea, it is possible that, because it sounds like what Marion has done is been kind of sent past the compilation date.
Yeah.
This is a simple matter of just how this program works. We could easily talk to Super Eval, have them open it up.
Yeah.
And then recompile, that way nobody has to do extra work and it's all done.
That would be,
I don't wanna do the work, so if I can get them to.
if they can do it.
If they
that
can
would be
reopen
awesome.
it and you can get your input in a very tight time, I would rather do that than do any manual stuff.
I could add it to my Monday
All right,
to-do list.
Thanks.
all right, so I think I've got the marching orders for that, on what we wanna do, and. I'm just. I'm just making.
New governance thing, is this the new governance thing?
Yeah.
No, that's a
No,
different.
the second item that I have under the topic of governance is just more a question for the board. And it is under governance in terms of how we are handling our meetings. And specifically, what's happened is there's been a morphing in the COVID era, where when we went into remote and we've emerged out of remote, that for public comment, prior to COVID, public comment was public comment. And it was physically here addressing the board. That was what public comment was exclusively. We then went to public comment being a Zoom. And then we added written, okay, which I believe is not typical in what happens. I mean, it's not a normal, it isn't a public comment, it's just a written approach. And so the question to the board is, do we want to kind of resume to the way we were? Do we want to have all of these different vehicles and as we're doing public comment?
Funny you mentioned this, because when Lisa said earlier, you asked her what comment, she said, well, I've got one to read into the record. Which means I'll never see it, I'll never know what it is. If people write to the board, I read everything that people write to the board. And of course, I'm very attentive when someone's present here. But it almost goes into the outer space. So saying, oh yeah, well, you can quote unquote submit it to a record.
I mean,
So that right there would be a reason to expense it.
Okay.
I agree with the written to the record, because if we take a look at it on the comments, I don't have an issue with Zoom because it opens up more opportunity for people who just can't physically get here, not everybody can do that. So the Zoom I'm good with, but I do agree, I'd like to hear this public comment where it had been, it should be more broadly open to everyone, so I would support not doing it written.
I'm gonna advocate for the written, because, and I think that can be addressed very easily by us just getting a copy of any written comments emailed to us, right? I'm sorry, Lisa, it's a little more work for you, but not a ton more, I think, right?
If the person's asking for a response, I try my best to forward it to you so you guys can see it.
Yeah.
But if they're just writing a statement, I just put it to the minutes, but it's.
And so this would be a change of procedure, but I think, if my recommendation is that public comments that are gonna be written in minutes, we get copied of it,
That's
right? And then we don't have a chance to read it. And my argument is mostly a disability focused one, right? I mean, I had a student, at just before COVID, when COVID was just starting, who we went remote. He sent me a note saying like, he had been about to drop out of college because he had so much social anxiety, about speaking in public, and remote was, let him stay in school. And I think, you know, when we were, some of us like talking in front of a crowd, and some people have a very hard time with it. So I think giving people an option to give us feedback in a written form rather than verbal form was.
What are the, what's, are the guidelines for this speak?
The state guidelines.
Yeah, or our own legal counsel guidelines as
Policy
well.
guidelines are specific to, public comments in a traditional sense, as kind of, as Tom introduced it. So there is nothing in, to my knowledge, there is nothing in ISB guidelines, nothing in state code, nothing in any other kind of precedent setting language that would compel the district to maintain the 3 different vehicles of public comment that we currently have. We absolutely need to have public comment. And so I believe, as far as the letter of the law is concerned, we satisfy that with, frankly, if we only did merely in person, not that I'm advocating for that. But that is what, that really is what the state code allows. The Zoom was a matter of just practical necessity,
Right.
of course.
I guess maybe I guess I'm thinking about the written versus the Zoom, so someone wants to be on Zoom and not on camera, because there's something about tone that you just can't get in a written comment. And for me, just listening to people is important, but hear what the tone is, and understand what
But the choice is between not hearing from them at all or hearing a minimized version, I'd rather get minimized. You know, and I agree with you, you get more channels of communication when they're speaking and even more when they're in the room, I absolutely agree.
I completely agree with you. I think whoever wants to contact us and tell us something, we should listen. Whatever medium they want to use, contact us and tell us something, we should listen. Everybody knows that they can email us. A lot of people do. People know that they can come here for public comment. A lot of people do. People who aren't able to come physically, that's the only way that they can both make a public statement for the public. And it's different from email. It's just a different thing. So I think the disconnect is that because it's not read in public session, you don't know what that message is. And sharing with us, as just suggested earlier, that closes that loop. But I don't think that we should be telling the public, you have this way of contacting us, sending a public message to us for no one.
I'm not saying that at all. I'm not saying that. I love it when people want to communicate with us, writing or here or Zoom, whatever. I'm just saying, and you solved it, as you said, by if we can just get a copy of it, then we'll know. Right now, we
it's
don't.
also for us, but the rest of the public doesn't kick in at the same time. Okay, how do we go in and do things we're saying that we don't, that we miss going into it? So I mean, I think public comment is different for feedback to the board.
I guess
So that's where.
the only thing that I would say is that those public comments that do come in writing are posted in the minutes. So if we read the minutes, it's there.
I read on the minutes, it's up being very after the fact.
Yeah, you lose the time sensitivity.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact is that the minutes are not, real time. So there is a lag issue associated with that. So I would just say, I think this is more when we're not voting on it, we're just looking for consensus. This is not something that has been voted on. But I'm just gonna take what I'm hearing, which says, let's at least make an enhancement, which is right now, let's just make sure that the written public comment is available at the meeting so that we can have it, that we know that's at that point, and then we can reassess moving forward. is it doing what we want? But that's a good enhancement for now.
For us. Not for everybody.
Not for the public. I agree. It is not transparent, I mean, to the whole public, which is what public comment is. Okay. So maybe we go one step.
I want to make sure I understand, right, what we're doing here in concrete terms. So, the biggest takeaway from this conversation is status quo, right? We're going to continue our practice as is, with the addition that we will make sure that public comments that are asked to be written into our minutes are individually sent to the board in a timely fashion that might not coincide with the timeliness with which minutes are produced. Is that a good summary?
That's,
Got it.
and we can continue to reassess just to make sure we're doing what we feel is the best. So, okay. Any other on that, and we will move on. Okay. Those are the board governance issues that I had. I do know, just to bring it up, that Graham, you can just talk briefly. I have not had a chance. You've provided to me and Dr. Johnson, so a work product that has been this board norms and cadence work. So
so remember we collaborated on our norms and our operating rhythm, and we created a Word document for each. Oh, I'm sorry. I translated that to a visually appealing PowerPoint and thrown in a few sort of basic factoids regarding our districts, such as staff demographics, student demographics, and so forth. In addition, those norms and operating rhythm contained a checklist that we wanted the administration to use when they're preparing reports for us. So we have fewer situations where we get a report and we're wondering, well, why didn't you make sure to indicate how that affects the 5-year forecast? So it's got the checklist. The other thing it has is Tom had given me a handwritten diagram to actually show the flow of board work. And I turned that into a flow chart. So the first draft of it I just gave to Tom and Dr. Johnson to look it over and see what they think. And then once they bless it, I'll share it with the rest of you. It's a living thing. You can add stuff to it if you want to. It should, I think, hopefully be a little easier than Word documents. And maybe different items of information that normally you gotta look for this PDF here and oh, let's look up this old board report here. It's it all in one place.
so I have not yet had a chance to review it, but my intent is probably review it if I see anything, especially since he took my napkin and turned it into a PowerPoint. I'm very curious to see how he did that, but
I did 2 versions of that.
I trust his talent. This was something that the napkin was done on graduation day. So we were working on a Sunday. And so I will most likely then just ask that it be pushed so that you can all see it. So now you know the context of it, and appreciate your efforts in advance for trying to continue to move forward with this, with just providing some basic information that will help us as a board. So thank you. Anything else under board governance for anyone here? Any future agenda items?
One thing relating to agendas, now that I've had a full year of being on this board, it'd be great to get a calendar of board reports, not down to the exact meeting date, but we know, for example, in December is when you give the state of the board or state of the district board. In February, we know we're going to get our EBF report. We know in September Roxana will do her staff demographics report. It'd be great to kind of have that school year report sketched out.
Yeah, I think it would be perhaps good during our governance conversation to examine how we can better consistently communicate such things with the board. Why I bring that up because maybe during the retreat a year ago or several months ago, the board requested a common landing page, right? That I don't remember who mentioned it or exactly what the consensus was. Was it from Swinsley? There was a request for that, and we have shared that out. And on that page, there actually is a link that says calendar of board reports. And it is actually the document, a view-only version of the document that we utilize internally for such reports. So I bring that up to say two things. Number one, the board does have access to the type of thing you're talking about. But the fact that you're asking the questions, that question helps to clarify that it's not working, right, for the purpose that the board wants. It's not there. So we need to figure out how we can better do that in a way that is dynamic and useful for the board, but also more accessible, I guess. So I don't know exactly what that means. We gotta figure that out.
I wonder if it,
We can leak it every week.
Well, I'm even
Yeah,
wondering,
meet
if we take 5 minutes in a meeting where we all pull it up and look at it and bookmark it and like, do you know what I mean? Like just like a computer training kind of thing and just make sure everyone knows what it is.
Well, I would even go
Yeah.
further. I mean, what I'm thinking, because I was doing this today, which is the board website has changed over time. And, maybe it's just a little bit of a website walkthrough, right?
It could be.
Of where things are, because there was reference to something in a quote unquote board policy. And I just want, I want to make sure I'm looking in the right place.
Yeah, putting things frequently in front of folks is always healthy and always useful for this. I have, it's almost every week we send out some sort of communication or note to the board. We could simply put a link to such things in there. So it's always, at your fingertips on a weekly basis. That might check the box. Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. So we'll take a look at something like that. Graham, does that maybe hit what you're getting at?
Are you saying that what I'm describing exists already?
Yeah.
I'm just the only member who doesn't know where.
I don't think you're the only member. So
I know it exists.
Yeah, you may
I
be
know
the
it
only-
exists.
You may be the only member who's gone to look
I
at
asked
it.
this.
No.
I don't feel bad. And I think you were saying, that same response was, oh yeah, and we told you about that, not saying.
But I was at the Board of Education page on the website.
That's not it.
No.
So, and that's part of what I'm saying, where would it be?
Yeah.
So maybe, I think an action would be.
Clearly, the way we've shared that hasn't worked. I meant that sincerely, no tongue in cheek. But it does exist, and we just need to make sure you get it.
How have you shared it? EWON?
Correct.
On the Board of Education page on the website, could there be the board login that takes us to that page? That
Perhaps.
would be an option.
The thing that accompanies this atlas that I created is really a shared drive or a team internet. But the point is, 3 months ago, it was mentioned in EWON. And then if I said to you right now, name our peer districts, where would you go to get that?
Exactly.
And if I said to you, what's our adequacy in EDF right? You'd have to, how would you go do that? You'd probably go back and mine the February 8th meeting.
Exactly. Correct.
And
That's why it hasn't worked.
everything is in all these different places.
That's right.
Very well, like, where you become mentor or disorganized arts nonprofits. Do you do consulting work?
Looks like I guess myself organized.
So in terms of an action item, a future agenda item, is this noted as such?
Well, I would suggest that we keep it part of a conversation that could be at our governance meeting coming up. But we don't have to wait for that to take action here to this or this. It's really almost a few minutes of work to make it regularly available through various mechanisms. And we can see how that works. So at least when we come to that governance meeting, we can say, all right, you've taken this step. It's worked for AB, but we really also want C do this. And then let's give that a shot. Is that reasonable?
So this deck I have is meant to be like an atlas, and so what I'm
Yeah.
gonna do, if you send me again this link, I'm gonna put it in a slide, and I'm gonna update it every month. This is gonna work for me, I'm not gonna force my methods on anybody.
That's cool.
I mean, but it does, it does, merit a good look at a system's overall, like Monday or something, which I find particularly really very useful and intuitive, dynamic, and could really serve the purposes of everything we're discussing here, having a real-time repository full of all the Gantt charts we need, full of all the board goal oriented, everything, we want in there. Not, being mindful, of course, that these are all, PDFs, updated PDFs are not intended for us all to work independently on anything in there, but I just think looking at something like that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, that's like the longer term thing.
Yeah.
I want an immediate tool right now, for that I can do it, but he's right, too.
Yeah.
It's that internet, that shared drive thing. Over time, yeah, it's not.
Okay, so I think we've captured it. And with that said, we are not adjourning, we are recessing.
Yes.
I move to recess open session.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So now I move what to,
Hold on,
no,
he has to go out, I gotta go into closed section.
yeah, I know, we're flipping back into closed.
Mhm.
Okay, we are reconvening open session and we are at action item number 7C on our agenda. So I moved to approve the personnel recommendations, including new hires, transfers, resignations, and non-referrals, and ask for a second. Is there any need for discussion? Seeing none, may we please have a roll call?
Mr. Harkin,
Yes.
Ms. Williams-Lee,
Yes.
Dr. Livingston,
Yes.
Dr. Morrow,
Yes.
Mr. Barnhorst.
Yes.
Mr. Brewster.
Yes.
Mr. Kowski.
Yes, the yeses carry 7-0 and it passes. I move to adjourn this special meeting at 9:14 PM.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? We are